We have the pleasure, distinguished pleasure, of having an incredible guest speaker today. And Amy was at the top of my list of people that I wanted to come in and speak to our organization. And I think she's going to be exactly what we need in terms of as we figure out how to move ourselves forward and personal improvement, being focused and so forth. Amy has a incredible background, and so what I want to do is I want Brianna to read her bio, and then I'll continue with my introduction.
Amy S. Hilliard is the owner of 3 businesses: consulting, speaking, and licensing. As principal of the Hilliard Group, a strategic marketing consulting firm, her clients have included Nielsen, IBM, BET, American Express, HBO, The Gap, the Art Institute of Chicago, Jaguar, Chicago State University, and PepsiCo. At 48 years old, because banks wouldn't give her a loan, Ms. Hilliard sold her home to start the Comfort Cake Company, makers of the pound cake so good it feels like a hug. Launched in 2001 and selling cakes for 15 years, the company gained national distribution with United Airlines, Walmart, and the Home Shopping Network, among others, using Ms. Hilliard's own pound cake recipes. Ms. Hilliard now licenses the recipes and sugarless sweetness, a patent-pending proprietary sugar substitute. With a unique background of senior corporate experience and established entrepreneurship, Ms. Hilliard was recently president of Fashion Care Cosmetics, the global legacy cosmetics company focused on women of color. She rebuilt the sales, marketing, and operations team, enhanced the brand's imagery, increased promotions, and focused the e-commerce efforts of the business to deliver the highest annual sales revenues ever for that channel. During Ms. Hilliard's tenure, Essence Magazine named her as one of the nation's key beauty industry influencers. A former retailing senior marketing and acquisitions executive with Bloomingdale's, Gillette, Pillsbury, Burrell Communications, and Soft Sheen L'Oreal, Amy Hilliard successfully raised 2 young adults through college as a single mother. Her marketing innovations to build Gillette's White Rain franchise into a $100 million business were documented in a case study for the Darden School of Business of the University of Virginia. A native Detroiter, she is an honors graduate of both Howard University and the Harvard Business School. She is also the author of Tap Into Your Juice, Find Your Gifts, Lose Your Fears, and Build Your Dreams, a motivational ebook endorsed by First Lady Michelle Obama and Mother Wit for the New York Times bestseller, Chicken Soup for the Soul, for the Mother's Soul. A proven thought leader of entrepreneurship, empowerment, and marketing, Ms. Hilliard speaks to audiences worldwide. An avid health enthusiast and community volunteer, Ms. Hilliard served 2 terms on the Board of Trustees of Howard University and currently serves on the LeanIn.org advisory board with Facebook COO Sheryl Sandberg. Ms. Hilliard's new blog, Sizzling After 60, Thriving at Every Stage of Your Life, launched this year.
Wow, that's an amazing bio. I just want to, man, I hate to come after that bio. I need to get out of the way, but I want to tell my Amy story. And so I first met Amy when she was top executive at Burrell Advertising. And I had Heart and Soul magazine. I put together a partnership for Heart and Soul magazine, and I'm making my presentation in Amy's office. So Amy asked me this question. She says, who owns the name? And I said, well, shoot, it's a partnership, 80-20. Then I thought about it and said, well, I had them trademark the name, but I never saw any paperwork. So they own the name. She says, that is what you have to watch out for, right? And her words proved to be prophetic because, for those of you who don't know, I started Heart and Soul magazine, took it to the big company, and I got squeezed out of that deal. And part of the way they squeezed me out of the deal was I didn't know the name. And I hadn't thought about it until Amy said it. And so, and when it happened, I said, dang, Amy was telling me about this, and so, and that was my first experience with Amy. But I've also seen her present on African American Marketplace. I mean, I remember sitting there being blown away. And as a matter of fact, the entire audience was blown away. I mean, but Amy is just such a brilliant her degree of success, she's not. It hasn't gone to her head. She still is down for the community, down for people, and I think she's an excellent role model for all of us to sort of admire and just suck it all in. So with that, I'm stepping out of the way. We are filming this Facebook Live, so let's leave the floor to Amy.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Oh my goodness. Thank you, Brianna. Thank you, Reggie. This is amazing to be here. I am thrilled. It has been a wonderful journey. I mean, it really is a full circle to come and talk to you, because I remember the day sitting in my office with Reggie with Heart and Soul, and I just saw the vision. And this was a true professional, a man on a mission. He was like heart and soul. I'm like, who owns the name?
That's right. That's right. That's right.
I love what you're talking about, but who owns the name? And so, it's just awesome to be able to speak to you guys about blackdoctor.org, because to see Reggie's vision come to this fruition is just amazing, because it's so important what you're doing now. I mean, it is critical what you're doing now for our community, for our survival, for the world. So you all are on a mission, and to be in a space where you could do something that vitally important with your professional lives is just terrific. It's very rare that you get that opportunity to do that. And so Reggie asked me today to speak about being a great professional. And as you heard from my bio, I've had some different steps along the way of being a professional. So I've come up with the ABCs of being a great professional that I want to share with you. I'll share with you some things that have worked for me, and I hope that they can work for you. And so we're going to explore what I think they are. Because if you're working for an organization that's moving forward, and I've heard this been talked about when I stepped in here today, it is your responsibility to keep moving in that direction. If the organization wants to move forward, you guys got to move forward too. And so what do you want to do that? What are the ABCs of being a great professional? In my opinion, they're A, being authentic, B, having balance, C, and there are 4 C's. They're confidence, competence, commitment, and cultivation. And I'm going to take you through all of them. Okay? Let's break them down. Being authentic. The definition of authentic is not false or copied, genuine, real, and representing one's true nature or beliefs, being true to oneself. Now you think about that as you're a professional. We all want to grow, learn, work from people who have values. It's very important. You are here every day. We want to identify, and we desire to be around people who are honest, trustworthy, and kind. So it's important that you be transparent with why you're here and what you're here to do. It's important not to be known for hidden agendas. I've been a lot in corporate America, and many of you all have too, and you all know when you're up against hidden agendas. Whoa, that sucks the energy out of you. You're like, I'm trying to go down here, and they're trying to go down here, and you had no idea. It's like, what? Don't be about hidden agendas, but bring your values to work. And if your workplace doesn't reflect your values, I don't think you should be there, because all money isn't green. Don't forget that all money isn't green. Let me share a story about bringing values to work. One of my values is respect for self and for others. When I was a young merchandising associate at Bloomingdale's, I worked for this really dynamic merchandising VP, Caroline Fisher. I'd always wanted to work for her because she was legendary at Bloomingdale's. And she was now at the Bloomingdale's in Boston, and I had been at the Boston store, and I was a merchandise manager at the sportswear department. Now she was old school. She grew up on and got her chops on 7th Avenue in New York, and so she grew up yelling a lot, because that's what they did on 7th Avenue. Move those racks, get that stuff going. So that was her MO, right? Now she had never yelled at me, okay? But she didn't take fools lightly, and so she wanted things a certain way. Well, one day, I'm on the floor, and I got a shipment of over 2,000 t-shirts from China. and the operations people just dumped this shipment on the floor. And so I'd gone to Harvard Business School, so I had my calculator, and I'm looking at the number of cubes and the number of colors, and I'm like, okay, so we have to just decide how many cubes and how many colors go, and so I'm doing my little analysis with all these t-shirts and boxes. Miss Fisher comes up to me and she goes, "What the heck are you doing? Get these t-shirts off this floor right now." She took my head off in front of my sales staff. They're looking at me like, and I looked at her like, and I said, "Whoa, now I am from Detroit." She was my boss, but there was no way that was going to stand for me. I said, "Miss Fisher, would you please step into my office?" Now my office was a cubby hole underneath the stairwell in the south room. Okay, but Miss Fisher, would you step into my office, please? We stepped into my office, and I said, "Miss Fisher, I have always wanted to work with you. I admire you, and I admire your skills, and I respect your skills, but you have to respect me too. And I may be different from you. Now, my way of getting these t-shirts into the wall is different from yours, but if you had just been patient, they would have been up in that wall in the amount of time that you took and that we're taking to discuss this. So I need you to respect me, and most importantly, I need you to respect me in front of my sales staff, because I have to work with them every day." She looked at me, and I looked at her, and from that point on, we respected each other.
Wow.
And kept it moving.
Wow.
And I didn't even have to put on my Vaseline or take off my earrings. Every morning, you all wake up and get ready to go out in the world and make your mark for the day. You are armed with the gifts that God has given you and with the personality that you've been given to share what you have with your gifts with others. So don't change your personality to fit in or put on a mask to be who you think they want you to be in order to be professional. Because when others see the real you, not someone phony, they can feel your values, they can feel your honesty and your integrity. All key attributes to being a great professional. So show up authentically so they can trust you as you are. The second B is balance. Please live a balanced life. Okay, you all have to work very hard. We all know that our work life is important. It's what we get paid to do, right, Reg?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
But at the same time, it is part of who we are, not all of who we are. And a key attribute of professionalism is to have life balance. Why? You guys are studying the health issues. The Mayo Clinic has documented that if you really have life balance, guess what? You're more productive. You are more productive if you stay fit, if you're getting enough sleep, if you have friends, family, a social life, activities you love. That helps your mind reboot, and it keeps stress at bay. When your mind and your body stay strong, you can produce more. Consistently working those 16-hour days can actually shut your mind and your body down. It just doesn't work. So you got to work smarter, not always harder. And that's a concept that you've heard before, but I am telling you, it is very, very true. Take your vacations. Sometimes people say, "I don't have time to take my vacation." You better take your vacation, because if you don't, you won't be able to bring a new, fresh perspective back to your job. And I can relate. I can be honest with you that during the most challenging times of building Comfort Cake, Soft Sheen, and Fashion Fair, I wasn't taking care of myself like I knew I should have. And what that happened to me was I had heart palpitations and 2 cancer scares. 2 that fortunately came back benign. But it scared the Jesus out of me. And it changed the way that I viewed my life. And I said, you know what? Health scares can change you. It's all part of the reason why I started sizzling after 60. It made me realize first that staying alive is very important.
Yeah.
Very important. But as a result, it also helps you when you're balanced to stay on top of your professional game. So my motto right now is, if it doesn't feel good, I don't do it. Period. End of story. I just don't. But I start every day meditating. I center my mind. I pray. Because this then puts me in a mind space to go out there and slay whatever I have to slay. Okay? Now, you all here at blackdoctor.org can relate to these facts because it's the business of what you do. And I know that Reg wants all of you all to be productive. So I want you to be sure you are filling your well with the things that make you feel good so that you can bring balance to your life. Be sure you're doing that. Now let's talk about the C. Actually, those 4 C's. Confidence, competence, commitment, and cultivation. Starting with confidence. Webster defines it as a feeling of self-assurance arising from one's appreciation of one's own abilities or qualities. Let me repeat that. It's a feeling of self-assurance arising from one's appreciation of one's own abilities or qualities. It's coming from here. In other words, put your doubt on pause and believe in yourself. We all have doubts. I get them too. But when you get them, it is important. Just like when you can flip on your phone and flip over to an app, put that doubt on pause. Catch yourself when you are not believing in yourself. I have to do it, you have to do it. And know that if you are in, you have a right to be there. So often we get in a room and we're like, oh, I shouldn't be here. Or if you're talking, like Reg and I were just talking, that now you're having interactions with a lot more corporate people that you're being introduced to, and they are not engaging you perhaps the way that you want to because you're maybe sitting in the room thinking, ooh, you know, I'm talking to the big boys now. Yeah, and if you're in the room with the big boys, you have every right to be in the room with the big boys. And you have to walk in there like you do, because they will then expect more from you, they'll respect more of you, and it can add more value to your life as a professional. And you have to hold your confidence in alignment with your authenticity, because when you do, as I mentioned, that will impact how you think, how you walk, how you talk, how you write, and how you lead others. So remember, all these things are connected, and they will impact how you deal with the world, your clients, and your opportunities. Let's talk about competence. Competence is also so aligned with confidence. In other words, know your stuff. Now, we've heard some conversations about knowing your website, and knowing that, you know, from the sales staff is, hey, that is like, yeah, you got to know your website. You know, that's like a no-brainer. You've got to know your website. And if you don't know it, learn it. And keep on learning. I'm a lifelong learner, proud of it. I will always be in school about something. My kids, they hate to travel with me on an airport because bookstores are still there. And I'm like, you know, they're like, Mom, we are going to the gate. And I'm like, I will see you there because I am at the bookstore finding some books. I'm loving it. You know, I went just back to school this fall. Now, I just had my 40th anniversary of getting my MBA at Harvard Business School.
Wow.
Okay? To Columbia Business School this fall to get my certification in social and digital marketing.
Wow.
Yes.
That's amazing.
I ain't ashamed.
That's right.
I'm like, I need to know a little bit more about this because I've hired people to do it for me, but I needed to know what they know a little bit deeper. Because if somebody's making a recommendation to me, I need to know, okay, now why are you making that recommendation again? You know, what are this metrics? What are we doing here? And it was wonderful. And now I sound a whole lot smarter. So I love that feeling. Other traits of competence: learn how to write really well. I cannot underestimate how important that is. Learn how to write really well. And I'm sure you guys are doing a lot of this already, but when you're out in the world and you've got to make a point, one of my members gave me a great tip on how to do that. So you're writing a memo, you're writing a proposal to somebody. Keep them nodding their head yes all the way through the document. Mike Nittleberg taught me that. And I'm like, this junior person at Gillette, I'm just like, okay, what do I do? I'm trying to sell him a memo. He's like, you got to keep me nodding my head. What does that mean? Keep them in the flow. Okay, don't throw out an idea out of left field when you've got an objective of what you want that person to do. Whenever you're writing something, think in your mind, what do I want them to do when they finish reading my document? Keep that in your mind. Keep them in the flow. And make sure there are no typos. You all think I'm kidding? A typo in a big document or in a selling document can throw people off their flow. And you all think that, I mean, people say, oh, it's no big deal. It is a huge deal. You're asking for a lot of money, you're asking for a sale, and you have a typo. People start putting all kind of perceptions on you and the company you represent when you are not careful enough of how it looks when you're making that presentation. One of my other mentors, John Darman at Gillette, he was a beast about typos. When we had presentations to make for anything, he'd keep us there till like 1 o'clock in the morning. If he found a typo, you were in trouble. You were in trouble. And he would just make you stay there until there was no typo. He would go over every single page, every single word, and he had pencils. Typo! And I'm like, okay, John, we're gonna get it now. I'm like, okay, can I go home? I got kids. No, you can't. I'm like, okay. But I learned a lot from him. And check your emails too, and your texts, because, okay, spell check, y'all love spell check, right? But how many know spell check doesn't always work? It does not always work. When you're speeding along thinking it's got it, take the extra moment to spell check, spell check. Also, when you're being competent, you gotta learn how to sell. Now, how many of you are not in sales? Okay, great. How many of you are in sales? Everybody's hand should be up, because everybody's in sales. Okay, everybody's selling. Whether you are selling advertising, or you're selling your idea, or you're selling a budget, you better know how to sell. And you better have this entrepreneurial mindset, because you're an entrepreneurial company, and you've got to think like people want to move their business ahead in an innovative way. And selling is something that is very important to not be ashamed to do. And if you don't know how to do it, there are books out there to tell you. Cheryl Mayberry McKissick, who was at Johnson Publishing, she's a good friend. She just finished a book called The Entrepreneurial Sell. It's a great book, and it can teach you how to sell like an entrepreneur and the mindset that you have to have as an entrepreneur to sell. And it's a very important thing to have. When you're making these things happen and you're communicating with people, communication competency is vital. And to define competency, it's a sufficiency of knowledge and skills that enable you to act effectively and efficiently in a wide variety of situations. Okay? A wide variety of situations. But, you know what? Sometimes you may not feel that you are competent at something until you have to do it. You may not know you're competent until they throw you out there and you got to sink or swim. This happened to me at Gillette. Okay? I'm at Gillette and I'm talking about the black hair care market. They need to be putting people on, you know, making sure that we're advertising to black people, because we use shampoo, we use deodorant, we use razor blades, and they were advertising to us. So I'm on my soapbox telling them we need to be in Essence and Ebony and Jet. And then they saw Johnson Products annual report. They were making 8% profit margin, and Gillette's like, whoa, we need some of that business. We need to either acquire a company or, you know, have our own line. And they said, well, we're going to go on the acquisition track. Amy said, you've been talking about it so much, you go out there and help us acquire a company. Wow. They said yes. They threw me out there. So next thing I know, I'm talking to every black hair care manufacturer in America saying, we want to buy your company. How can we have lunch? You know, we want to spend about your company, we'll buy it for about $50 million. How's that sound? Let's do it. All right. I didn't know, but I learned. And the issue here is, if you don't know, you better ask somebody. And that's what I had to do. But because I did it, and then I saw it through all the way to the end, I got to put acquisitions on my list of skill sets. Okay? And it's a big skill set to have. Because when I got to L'Oreal and Soft Sheen, guess what? We acquired Carson Products. And I knew how to do that. So they're like, we're getting ready to acquire Carson Products. Amy knows how to do that. Come on and make sure that that happens. It also worked for me when I was at Burrell. because when Tom hired me, it was as a senior VP of integrated marketing to bring the advertising, promotions, and public relations companies together. And so I had to write the proposal, I had to do all the collaterals, I had to do all that stuff. And then Tom said, well, this looks really good now, go out and sell it. I'm like, you didn't hire me to sell? He goes, yeah, but I think you could do it. And he threw me out there to sell to all these corporations that I had never sold an advertising agency before, but he believed I could. And when someone believes that you can do something, that is a lot of momentum and motivation. And you have people here who believe in you, and that belief is real important. So he threw me out there. I'm like, well, okay then. And I started selling, and I started selling a lot. But I was selling a lot of consulting services because people weren't interested in buying advertising, but they were interested in buying consulting, which talks to another competency, thinking outside the box. There may be things about blackdoctor.org that can be revenue generators that you don't even know about until you start getting out there and talking about everything that blackdoctor.org could be. And I found that consulting was something that Burrell could do. So I went back to Tom and I said, you know, I'm selling a lot of consulting. He goes, I know. You sold more business in 1 year than in our 25-year history.
Wow.
And I said, yeah. And as I told you when I was hired, I want to be an entrepreneur. And so he says, well, you can start a consulting division under Burrell. I'm like, well, actually, Tom, I'd like to start it under the Hilliard Group. And he said, okay, you can. Okay, and he was very, very accommodating to me. He let me stay on at his Michigan Avenue address, paid for my assistant, and became my first client. Wow. So, you know, these are things that can happen when you are competent, when you believe in stuff, and when you throw out your stuff and keep going. Commitment. Being committed to being professional. That sounds simple, right? Well, we all know someone who, or in an instance when we ourselves have not acted as professionally as we should. No one's perfect. However, common sense has to prevail. When you're in a work environment, it is not time to let it all hang out. And again, don't get it twisted. The company holiday party is not anything but a work environment. It is a work environment. Sometimes people go to the holiday parties and like, woo, yay! You don't know who's going to be there. You don't know what clients are there. They're looking at you like, okay, this company is a little bit too out there for my millions of dollars. It's not being smart. There's professional decorum, good taste, and temperament that must be displayed. And for people of color, it's especially important. We still have to do it that way. Even Michelle Obama, yes, even Michelle Obama has said she had to remember where she was just last week. I don't know if y'all heard about it. At her book signing in Brooklyn, she gave her opinion about having it all. And she said that ish doesn't work. Whoops. She said, whoops.
Did I say that?
Did I say that? Yeah, she did. But she never said that at the White House. She knew where she was. She knew where she was. Commitment also involves intention and integrity. What is your intention about being a professional? Why did you decide to take that path? Because if your intention is clear, your integrity will show through. It's about showing up on time, returning calls promptly, meeting your deadlines, contributing your all to the team project instead of just skirting by. Keeping your word. You'd be surprised how often the commitment to being professional is forgotten. And yet, when somebody demonstrates commitment, you will know it in spades. It's about tenacity. You know, I've heard, you know, some things, some calls about, you know, people not making sure or getting back to you or whatnot. It's about falling down 7 times and getting up 8. And that is something that as professionals we have to do. As entrepreneurial mindset people, we have to do. And you're in an environment where you're creating things against the big boys. But guess what? That is a tremendous advantage because the big boys don't see all the opportunities you all have. You know, we are about our health, and the recognition of Black health being important is exploding. And how do I know that? Because I look at blackdoctor.org. That's how I know. Okay? But guess what? Other people are watching it too. And this is just as we saw what happened in the Black hair care industry, where the big boys weren't looking at what was happening in Black hair care, just as we saw in the advertising business, where the ad agencies weren't looking at what the Black agencies were doing, and then all of a sudden, boom, light bulb went on, and they said, we want some of that business. You all have to be on point, tenacious, to make sure that you keep what you have built and make this niche work for you before somebody else grabs it and says, we're gonna be, peopleofcolor.org for health or whatever, and snatch what you all are trying to do. So you all have something to protect, and it's your mission. Commitment is also about your personal presentation. How you meet people, walk into a room, how you shake hands. Because you can walk into a room and say, hi, I'm you can walk into a room and say, hey, I'm Amy Hilliard, how are you? All right. Okay? It makes a difference how people perceive you. How's your posture? You all think I'm kidding? Are you sitting up straight? Are you standing tall when you walk into a place, when you're sitting in a meeting? How many people saw what was going on at President Bush's funeral?
Oh, yeah.
Okay? A big deal. Body language was huge. It was huge. And it was talked about all over the internet. So these are things that make a difference. They seem small, but first impressions count. And you do not get a second chance to make a first impression. Cultivation. That's about building relationships. That's my favorite C. Because relationships matter. Because no one succeeds alone. Relationships matter yesterday, today, and tomorrow. It's about respecting others and keeping communication positive, alive, and well. It's knowing how to network and knowing how to work your net. Remember, it's not about what you can get, but what you can give. If you keep that top of mind, people will be able to come to you at times when you need them, and they will know that you'll be there for them as well. And it'll be reciprocal, it'll be flowing, it won't feel like, oh my God, can I network with you today? I cannot stand when people say that to me. Really? No, you can't. I am a huge believer in relationships, in honoring someone that I may have met and admired with a personal note, respecting the subject matter experts that are on your team and what they bring to the table and letting them know it. Because they know stuff that you don't know, and they can make you look better. And they feel great when you recognize them for that. Because I don't know everything. I truly don't. I don't try to know everything. And one of the smartest things you can do as a professional is knowing what you don't know and admitting it. There's nothing wrong. There's no shame in that game. Keeping in touch with people, even when you don't want or need anything. Being gracious and caring about others and letting them feel that. One of the best ways to do that is to learn from people who do it well. And one of the persons who did it well for me was CJ. She was my assistant at Burrell. She was so good at it. She was my assistant at Burrell. I brought her with me to the Hilliard group. I brought her with me to Comfort Cake. And I brought her with me to Fashion Field. That girl could work room. Okay? CJ, Claudia Jordan. You know CJ? CJ was working it. And I would learn from her. She could give great phone. Okay? I mean, hello. This is Claudia Jordan. And I'm calling you for such and such and such.
They don't use the phone.
Yeah. Well, whatever. Well, you all don't use the phone now. You just use whatever. She can give good text too. Okay? But learn how to do good digital. There is a way to do that where you can, and I've learned how to do it. Oh, and I had to. I may be, have graduated from school a little while ago, but I'm learning how to keep up with all of y'all. Okay? Because I had to. And there's just ways that you learn how to. I've learned how to send out a text so that I get a response, and how to do these things. And you all know how to do it, but it's about staying current, but staying connected as you're building those relationships. And it's also being grateful. Sincere gratitude is a forgotten art, particularly in a crunch period. And as life gets real short, you just have to remember how important that is. This past year, I lost 3 close mentees, friends, and mentors this year. Chef Judson Allen,
Yeah, that's right.
a young, brilliant chef and Food Network star. Ken Smichael of Target Market News, a stalwart advocate for African American economic empowerment. And Barry Rand, who should have been the CEO of Xerox,
That's right.
but went on to be the CEO of Avis and other companies and was chairman of the Howard Board of Trustees. Those funerals were something, but these were both professional and personal relationships for me that lasted for years. And it didn't matter which came first. I just felt personally blessed that they knew I loved and cared about them through the years of conversations, letters, dinners, texts, hugs, advice. Even though we didn't see each other often, the love was there and it mattered. Because at the end of the day, you don't know where you're going to be, you don't know where they're going to be. Cultivating those relationships is going to be so important, and you just never know when. So, in sum, there are a lot more facets to being a great professional than we have found time for today. But I wanted to share with you what worked for me, and I want to hear from you, if we have time for Q&A, what works for you, to start the conversation there. But if you follow Amy's ABCs of being professional, I think you can thrive. But I want you to be strategic about it. This is a strategic BDO summit. Remember to A, be authentic, because you can be yourself, because everybody else is taken, as Oscar Wilde says. I want you to live a balanced life, because life is just too short not to. And finally, I want you to be confident, competent, committed, and cultivate. And if you do all of those things, you will be on your way. Thank you.
Amy, thank you again. Incredible speech. We streamed it live on Facebook, and we're getting compliments. You're getting compliments left and right. Just on point. That's right. There's nothing else to say. Amy, thank you again.
You're welcome.
Now, how can people get in touch with you?
You can get in touch with me through my website, amyshilliard.com, and you can sign up there to be on our mailing list. You can also go to www.sizzlingafter60.com and sign up there for my blog. So I'd love to hear from you all. Thank you. Thank you so much.